All right. Hey, everybody. We are on air. We are on air. Welcome to the Random Red Pill Show. Welcome to my channel. And you already know that my channel is very raw and uncut, and you got to have thick skin. If you don't like what I say, get the hell off my feet. That's all you got to do is just kindly get yourself off here, and that's real talk. So I got a guest on here. She's from Arkansas, I believe, or Texas. Yeah,
Arkansas.
Arkansas. And the name is Jennifer Rodgers. And I'm just gonna let her take the flow, take dance floor, and tell her about herself. Right? Hey, tell us about yourself, Jennifer.
Oh my. Um, I live in Prescott, Arkansas. That's the southwest corner. 39. I've lived here all my life. Lived 2 years up way up north, but for here most of it. Proud to be a daughter of the South. Always.
A daughter of the
And
South.
oh yeah. Dixie daughter by blood. Oh yes.
Mm, wow. So you see the title of this is Heritage Not Hate. And I want to talk about, saying about the Confederate flag. I want to talk about, I got on, I'm pissing people off, but I want to talk, what you know about the Confederate flag. You come from the culture down there, and I just want to hear it, Ron, because they swept it down. The Confederate flag is racist. They hate black people. And I'm going to let you take the dance floor on that one.
Oh my goodness. I mean, it goes back further than me and you combined, Mo. It really does. And I say this to anyone who asks. A lot of people ask me, why do you fly that flag? What does it mean to you? And naturally, my answer hits them wrong because they're expecting me to say the typical answers. And I tell them, to me, it's not hatred, it's not racism. My ancestor, who I fly it for, was not a slave owner. He was just a poor Southern farmer from Alabama, and he fought for the South. He died for the South. I fly it for him. I wear this for him because he didn't rise up and take to arms to defend a handful of rich white and black men who owned slaves. The majority of the South didn't. They really didn't. It was just, handfuls here and there who had the money or came into money and came into slaves. Most Southern people didn't.
Mm-hmm.
And when you start giving facts to people, they either kind of raise an eyebrow and go, "Okay, now I kind of understand," or they get even madder and just resort to cussing and name calling. But that's not to say that there's not a couple groups, unsavory groups, who have what we call hijacked the flag and use it for their little get-togethers. The Everybody knows the KKK. If you don't know who the KKK is, you're hiding under a rock.
Amen.
Um, there's been three waves of their organization, and they pretty much hijacked it midway through their second wave, like in the 50s, 60s. Up until the 50s, the KKK flew the American flag at every public rally, at every cross burning there you can find, where they're marching down the streets of DC with nothing but American flags. It wasn't until about the 50s or 60s that they got this harebrained idea to start using it. So if they do pop their heads up nowadays, you'll see it. And trust me, I want to bash everyone I see using it. And that goes for the neo Nazis, these crazy little skinheads running around using it. I can't. No true Southerner can stomach that because we know the truth about the flag, and they use it for their own misled propaganda, and it's ridiculous. It truly is.
It is. It is for the own. It's like you could take things and misuse it and make it look bad. Like you got
Oh yeah.
people that can probably take the American flag and make it look bad. Like that's why people are kneeling it's just like people like them make the American flag look bad right there.
Oh yeah.
People that kneels and and I was looking at the history of the Confederate flag, even mentioned the blood of Jesus Christ up in it.
Mm-hmm.
I was looking at I was doing research, but I don't know as much as you do down there. But I'm still learning, you know what I'm saying. But I do know,
Oh
but
yeah.
I do know the truth, and I'm woken up, and I know black people that own this flag. My guy, Manager Mark,
Yeah.
YouTube
Oh
personality,
yeah.
he has his flag right behind here. My guy,
Mm-hmm.
Black Rebel.
Yep, Andrew Duncombe. I've been very proud to meet him and stand with him at several events. He's good people. He knows the truth like a lot of people do. And what blows my mind is that he catches more hatred than we do at rallies. I've noticed that several times. You
Hmm.
know, we're on one side of the we're on one side of the hedge and the haters are on the other, and they're giving us their usual. But the minute they see Drew come over and come around and stand with us, I mean, their hatred just goes to him like it's like I've never known. I mean, they'll call him everything from, well, I don't know if I can use the words, but you know the words.
House nigga.
They call, yep, they'll call
Mhm.
him Coon, they'll call him House That, they'll call him Uncle Tom. And here's the funny thing, if people knew the facts, if anyone had ever read Uncle Tom's Cabin,
Yeah.
they would know that Uncle Tom was a hero in that book. He gave himself over so that his slave mates could get free, wouldn't be captured. So when someone calls you an Uncle Tom, thank them because they're complimenting you. Uncle Tom was a
Mhm.
hero.
Yeah, he was a hero.
He was a brave man. He died a hero.
Right.
And people think that's an insult, and I laugh when I hear folks get labeled that. I'm like, you don't know what you're saying. It's it's that problem. It's being mistaught, misled, and that's why you'll never kids today will never learn the truth about the South and that flag in school. That's by design. They'll never be taught the truth. And many people think that flag behind you is the Confederate flag. That's actually just a battle flag. That was what
Yeah.
they would take into battle. The Confederacy itself had three national flags. Over a period of time, their design would change, kind of like the American flag did.
Yeah.
And that one, my ancestor fought under. He fought with the Army of Tennessee, and that was their battle flag, the rectangular. That's what we call the Southern Cross,
Yeah.
because it's St. Andrew's Cross, and that was flown in battles, and that's what they call the battle flag. The one like that that's square shaped, that was used by Robert E. Lee's Army of Virginia, and it was also a battle flag.
Okay, you was teaching me.
And there's all kinds of Confederate flags. Each Southern state, their own military division, they would make up their own flags. You've heard of maybe the Bonnie Blue. It's a dark blue rectangle, white star in the middle.
Yeah.
And there's the Polk flag, which is dark blue with a white circle in the middle. There's all kinds that were just different divisions would make their own so they could be distinguished. But yeah, the one behind you is, I mean, the Army of Tennessee was a pretty big
Okay.
military division. It was huge, and that was their battle flag of choice, their main one. But I have all of them. I have the first, second, and third national, the Southern Cross. I do believe I have a Cherokee Braves flag because Cherokee Indians also fought for the South.
Yep. Yep. Now I'm offended. You got all the flags. I'm offended. They gotta go. I'm sorry.
Oh my goodness. And that's, up until, let me think, 4 or 5 years ago, I
Yeah.
didn't even know my own history. I mean, if people would surprise themselves if they would go and research their own ancestry, because I didn't know that I had an ancestor who fought in that war for the South. And now that I do, I'm proud to know it, and
Mhm.
equally proud to know he wasn't a slave owner. He
Right.
wasn't.
Hmm.
Many of them weren't. And it's hard to convince people that over 600,000 men took up arms to fight for slavery
Right.
when almost all of them weren't slave owners. That's, it's baffling, but it's hard to convince people of the truth. It truly is.
Yes. Yes.
It's been an uphill battle since 2015 for the
Not,
South.
not all of them was slave. Oh, you got me thinking. I want to do a video about titled that not all of them were slave owners and
No, no.
the truth.
And it's the same for the North. I mean, the Northern Army was just as misled as the Southern Army because a lot of them boys weren't slave owners. They
Yeah.
weren't. It was mostly your wealthier people, your more prominent people.
Mhm.
Sonny boy who was born into money. His dad had a plantation, and now it's his, and all daddy's slaves are his. And just the majority weren't, especially in the South. A lot of them were just dirt poor farmers, and culture was what really brought on that war. Not so
Mhm.
much the slavery as it was the agriculture that Lincoln was doing everything he could to tax to death, which he
Yes.
did.
Yes.
He did.
Right. You know, it's crazy.
Yeah.
I always hear this word, right? And it took me years to learn things. And they all say, oh, they don't know the black struggle. They don't know the black struggle. I said, hold on, man. You got the Southern struggle out there too. That they people that now work for everything. You know what I'm saying? Working 10 hours, 15 hours a day, jobs and stuff. You know what I'm saying? And I said, I know some white people, some white folks that was like, that struggled, that had about many people living in their houses and house pool. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? It ain't
Oh
just
yeah.
black folks.
I think if people would understand that everybody struggles, every race, it's not just one or the other. I mean, there is absolutely no privilege to be had here at all. I
Mhm.
grew up in a single parent household. That's not a privilege. We grew up poor. I grew up with hand me down clothes, usually from my brothers. That's not privilege. I work every day, anywhere from 10 to 11 hours, depending. I mean, there's no privilege here. I earn what I get. I don't take a living. I make it.
Yeah.
And that's true for all the races. I mean, there are in every race there are those who bust their tail, and then there are those who live off the government, who live off the ones who work.
Mm-hmm. Look,
And
you
that's
got.
universal. It's not just one color that has that issue. It's everywhere.
Mm-hmm. You do. It's just not. See, I try to tell people that. I tell people that the way I grew up in the city of Chicago, and I did not grow up in an all black neighborhood. I grew up in Albany Park, mixed, and it was people poor. And a lot of my friends growing up was like white. Most of my friends actually white and Hispanic. Because it wasn't that much blacks around me. So, but we was all the same. We all talked the same. It wasn't like, oh, he
Yeah.
trying to be white. We all was just the same. But it was some poor people. You know what I'm saying? I kicked it by the Asians' house. They had about 15 people living in their crib, struggling. You know,
Mm-hmm.
my guy, he's Puerto Rican. He was struggling and stuff. I know my guy. His name is Tom. He a white dude, man, and I seen how poor he was and his family was,
Yeah.
and I'm like, hold on, why do you want to just put it on the black community about that? And I'm tired of that race baiting. You dig?
I don't think it's something that's ever going to end, honestly. I mean,
Mm,
it was the rage when my parents were my age or younger, when their parents were young. It's going to continue, I think, indefinitely. I don't know if it'll ever be something that'll go away. I wish it would. I really do, because like you, I grew up. It wasn't any predominant race, really. I mean, the schools I went to, there was black kids, there was white kids, there was Mexican. They were everywhere. It was a fairly even mix. And my brother, I always make it a joke. I called him Larry Bird when I was a kid because he got along with the black kids more than the white kids. I mean, he hung out. They all hung out. He was cool with them. I mean, to this day, I still call him Larry Bird because he's not white. He's clear. He just has that quality. He can just
yeah,
mingle. It's not it's no big thing to him, and they all love. Oh, Jay, man, what you doing?
yeah.
That's just how he is.
Like,
So I mean, in our town was pretty evenly, mixed. There wasn't a whole lot of predominant anything. We lived down the road from what could be called a sundowner town. I don't know if you've ever heard of those. They
mm-mm,
there's some that still exist in the South, maybe even in the North. But back in the day, there were these places that were called sundowner towns, and this was during the height of racism back 50s, 60s. Basically there were no black people in those towns. And if one ever came into town, there was usually a sign at the city limits that said, pardon the word, that said, "Nigger, don't let the sun go down on you in this city or in
mm.
this town."
No, the
Those were
word don't
called
bother you.
sundowner towns.
That's yourself.
And as a kid, we grew up about a couple miles up the road from a sundowner town. I don't know if it's still like that now, but
Mm-hmm.
there was one black family that moved in, and they were moved out within a month.
Mm.
So I mean, it still exists even
It
20
does.
years ago. I'm sure maybe even still today, and that's sad.
Yeah, it does, and it's on both sides, and I feel now
Mhm.
that it's more of an attack on white people now because I know the lady and me, I can't stand her, and I'm gonna say this lady name, but she's a pro-black, so called activist, pro-black, and She do not love white people. She said, "There's any man that lay down with a white woman, I don't trust you." That's how she is, and she always called them. She said some evil stuff about white people, like what the heck? And she lighted, and she lighted at me, and she like light skin. I said, "How you gonna say you so you look like you mix your doggone self?" And it's some stuff that I see, not just her. I see people like that on my side. Like I don't want to talk like that. Get away from me. I don't want to hear that. Just somebody got to
I look
stand up for what it is.
I look at it like this. In the last 3 years, it's been so brought to the limelight for us here, and that is, with all the monuments in the South that have been removed so far. I think it's like 100 or so, maybe more. I don't know,
Yeah.
but a lot of people like to say, "Oh, it's a symbol of oppression. It's oppression. Oppression and racism are in the mind of the beholder. No monument or flag can create that, but only a fool can perpetuate it, can keep it going. It's all in your mind if you think you're oppressed. I've never oppressed anyone. This ain't I've never oppressed anybody, and I don't feel oppressed by anybody. No, it's what you carry up here and in here.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been an ongoing thing here for 3 years, just one after another. They just keep taking them down, and it doesn't get any easier to see because I mean, those some of those monuments had stood for over 100 years. They hurt no one until 2015 when Trump got into office. All of a sudden, oh my God, I'm oppressed. Get rid of it.
Yeah.
It makes no sense. In fact, if you're up in Chicago, there's a monument there, and that's actually where my ancestor, my third great grandfather, is buried. He is buried in Oakwood Cemetery, and
Mm.
it's one of the biggest mass graves in the North, if not in America. Roughly 6,000 Confederate men, about 4,100 were recorded, were named, and he was among
Yeah.
the named. But there's an extra 2,000 who are unknown that are buried there too, and there's a big monument. It's a lot of people. And there are folks in Chicago that want it taken down. And that deeply hurts me because that's where my blood
Mhm.
is.
Yeah.
They wouldn't release him from that prison camp. They wouldn't let him go home. They wouldn't send his body home for his wife to bury. They just tossed him in a pit. And that was
Mhm.
that. I
Yeah.
mean,
So they're
people
trying to get
forget
rid of it down in Chicago. They're trying to get rid of it.
they're talking. There's been talk about it in the last year or so. There
If
have
they
been a
do,
couple.
let me know I'm in. You need me down there to go down here and stand up, even though they might end up taking it down because of what they used to do. This is
Oh,
sanctuary.
I've said it. I've stated it many times. If I find out through an article that they're actually going to remove it, if I have to hitchhike, I'll be up there in Chicago. And if I get swarmed by people, so be it. I'll go down
I'm
fighting.
with you. I'm an hour and a
Yeah,
half from Chicago, so I'll be down there with you.
I'm a ways from it, but I'll go.
Yeah.
I mean, monuments. Everybody's going to have their feelings, but that's a different situation. That's the grave marker for 6,000 people.
Mhm.
If you're gonna leave anything alone, leave graves alone. Let those people rest. That's the way I see it.
Yes, yes. Let them rest. Let them rest. Let them rest in peace. Let them just rest. And it's like they got this Maxine Water type of spirit. No sleep, no peace. That Maxine Water spirit they have.
My goodness,
Um,
and that makes me question all the time. Where was all this before 2015? People weren't oppressed up until then, I guess. I mean, it all
hmm.
when that stupid kid with the bowl cut went into that church and shot those people up. Not
Oh,
only was
Helen.
that horrible and tragic, but when the pictures of him surfaced on the internet holding a flag, I thought,
Yeah.
"Oh no, here we go."
Mm-hmm.
And sure enough, Nikki Haley ordered the flag to come down at the courthouse, and it blew up from there.
Mm-hmm.
And it
And
hasn't stopped since, all because of one stupid kid.
yeah, stupid kid. You
I
got
mean,
Wonder Woman comes up there and climb and take the flag down.
not just for the monuments that are being pulled, but for those people he murdered. I
Yeah.
mean, was it really worth that? You know, it's never worth it. And come the day of judgment, he'll answer for it.
Mm-hmm. He's going
But
to have to answer it.
it's amazing how one event can just start changing everything.
Yep.
And it's all due to revisionism, what people want to see as history that wasn't history.
Yep.
If people were taught the real truth about that war, they would have a totally different mindset about the federal government and
Mm-hmm.
Abraham Lincoln instantaneously. Trust me, my eyes have been well opened about Lincoln, and there's no hero to be had there, not in the slightest. If
That's
people
what's up.
learned the true history of him, they would be repulsed, possibly. I
They just
mean,
don't know.
that's the difference between federally approved education and true archives of history. Federal approved education would teach you that Abraham Lincoln was the great emancipator. He freed the slaves. What it wouldn't teach you was that just prior to the war, Lincoln tried to convince the South to rejoin by offering them an amendment to the Constitution that would
Mm.
have made slavery a permanent binding law, a constitutional law. People look it up. It's called the Corwin Amendment.
Yeah.
That would have made slavery binding nationwide. He was ready to sell out the black race to keep the South earning money for him.
Mm.
No one's taught that.
Wonder why he really got killed.
And he offered it to four of the seceded states. They all rejected it outright. And that right there blows the slavery theory out of the water. Because if slavery was the cause, the South would have jumped on that amendment in two shakes and would have had their slaves forever. But they
Yep.
didn't. They didn't. Slavery wasn't their drive. They wanted to be free of heavy taxation and no representation in government. They wanted state sovereignty, their individual states' rights to govern back.
Mm-hmm.
Slavery was something of an economic issue to many people in that day, but it was not their driving cause to go to war. They simply legally seceded. I mean, to this day, we retain the right to secede. It would be a very uphill battle, but we can do it if a state so desired. And they did it legally, and it came down to their votes. They voted for it. They seceded. Um, Rich interests in the North began complaining, saying, if they break away, they're going to bankrupt us. You have to do something.
Yes.
These were the rich interests, the businessmen of the North. The majority of Northerners didn't care that the South left. They're like, okay, let them go. If they want
Mm.
to secede, let them go. We'll still be friends. We're fine. Lincoln had a problem with that, and that can also be taught in the actual archives section where he requested Missouri to send him troops to invade her sister states. Missouri refused. He sent Union troops in and completely took over the state's government.
Real news. Real news.
And the exact same thing happened in Maryland. The governor refused to offer any assistance to Lincoln. Lincoln had his army go in, and they actually arrested all of the government of Maryland, the governor, all the legislature, imprisoned them.
Mm.
Lincoln did this. He committed acts of tyranny, absolute tyranny. People
Wow.
aren't taught that. They're taught that he's Honest Abe, the great emancipator, and he was anything but. He superseded every law we had
That's
to
dishonest aid.
to see to the killing of over 700,000 people.
Mm.
Largest
Research.
mass murderer. Largest mass murderer in history. But people aren't taught that, and if you try to tell them that, they get super mad because Lincoln's always at the top of the greatest presidents ever list.
That sounds like Hillary type of.
I'm telling you, doesn't it? But it's
Woo.
every bit of it's the truth. What he did was unreal.
Yep.
No other president before or since ever dared to commit what he committed
Mm.
in the name of money.
Money. Yeah.
in the name of money, because that's what it was about. My dog will not quit barking. If you don't quit, nobody's here.
They want to talk about Andrew Jackson, but oh,
Oh,
he owned slaves. I'm like, okay, okay, all right,
oh well. I mean, Andrew Jackson wasn't a peach either.
right. I'm understand that
He
they
was.
dwell on certain people all the time, but
They
never
do, and that's
get.
what I've been trying to tell people for a long time. When these leftist, revisionist people have chewed enough of the South up and have taken down and changed everything they think they're happy with, they're not going to stop, Mo. They're going to turn their eyes to the North, and they're going to go after everyone they consider a slaveholder or a racist. And if you're going to go by slaves, then in that case, Washington's in trouble, Jefferson's in trouble, Jackson's in trouble. Any monuments to these men will also be in danger. I mean, slavery is our dark chapter, but is it worth wiping the country clean over? It's a part of history. You leave it there and you learn from it. The people in Europe did not bulldoze Auschwitz because it was such a horrible thing. They left it intact. They restored what was falling apart, and to this day you can go and you can visit Auschwitz and you can see the place where unbelievable mass murder occurred. They didn't
Mhm.
get rid of that history. They keep it up so people can see it and learn from it.
Yep. To learn from it, learn from it.
I
If you
mean,
learn, you educated. You
yeah,
know, educate yourselves. That's all you got to do.
it's the best thing you can do. It's the best thing I've done yet. I mean, I've learned more and have woken up a lot more in the last 3 years than I have beforehand. When you learn a new truth, you peel away another layer,
Yep.
and it's unreal if you the things people can learn and know instead of listening to mob mentality opinions. Of course,
Hmm.
flash mobs are effective. I mean, they bring a lot of attention, but it's the wrong kind.
Yep. Negative attention. You
Yeah,
don't need the negative attention, and that's a problem with people on the other side. They draw off what is positive or negative attention. Long as it's attention, that's all. But it be
yeah,
mostly off of negative attention because
yeah.
negative attention draw things, bring things faster now. Bring things. I mean, move it real fast. Negative attention would get you tons of followers.
Oh yeah.
Tons, you
It'll
you
get
know what I'm talking about. It can get you tons of trolls too. So come on
it'll
now.
get
Be
it'll get
careful
you
what you wish
views
for.
aplenty. Plenty of views, plenty of shares, but then everybody who's looking and sharing, they're being just as misinformed as the ones spouting it.
Yeah.
It's easier to fool someone than to convince them they've been fooled.
Mm-hmm.
And our education system is total proof of that, especially regarding any history book that describes the South.
Yep.
We've been painted as the big bad racist slave owners for over a century and a half. It's a
Mm-hmm.
stigma that has stuck with us. You go to anywhere up north and what do you think of Southerners? Oh, them inbred hillbilly racists. That's
Right.
what we're called at every turn.
Y'all be like the
And it's
coolest people to kick it with. What they talking about? They be man. I'm telling you, the Southerners be the coolest one with the flag.
and I have the same. Sometimes we have the same issue regarding Northerners. What do you think of Yankees? Oh, them crazy nut jobs. Oh, they're all jerks. They're not all jerks. They're not. I've met a lot of pretty interesting Northerners, and I call them Yankees just out of affection, just like they call us rednecks. Redneck doesn't bother me. I think it's hilarious. Names do not bother me. I've been called honky, cracker, redneck, you name it. I'm like,
It's
okay.
saltine American. You can't say it no more. You gotta say saltine American.
It's oh my lord, dog. Let me get my phone up here. Yep. Come on, dog. Let's go in here. Hopefully my signal will hold up. We'll see if it does. But yeah, I mean, the labels, man. People got to learn to drop the labels.
Yes.
If we can drop labels, things would get, they really would.
Yep.
It wouldn't be perfect, but it would be a good step. Come out
Yep.
here on my porch. Come on, dog. It would be a great improvement if we could just, drop the negatives.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Drop the negative.
I'll quit calling them crazy jerks if they'll quit calling me ignorant hillbilly.
Right.
You know? And that was one of them. That was one of those things. Oh, Hillary Clinton did. She pretty much described a lot of Southerners and Trump supporters as backwards deplorables or inbred idiots, something to that effect.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah. Racist. Oh, what a racist ass.
if you have to resort to insults to further your campaign, come on. Come up with a new strategy.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
working. That's tired.
It's tired. It's played out. They always want to say, "Ooh, you guys support white supremacy, right? Y'all support that, right?" And I look
Oh
like,
my.
what is Hillary then? What is Hillary? Huh? What is Hillary that want to dumb down the poor community? Just want to dumb them down. Who is Hillary? The killer. She killed Americans. What are they talking about?
Oh, she's killed a lot more than just 4 men in Benghazi. I promise you that.
Hmm.
There's at least 100 people on her black bag list who had information on her and or her husband, and they suddenly wound up suicided.
Hmm.
How many people wind up suicided with 2 shots to the head?
Yeah.
I mean, the thing is that her crazy husband was a president. She got that thirst for power. She can't let it go. She just
Hmm.
wants back in so bad she can't stand it.
Yep.
And of course, the worst thing they could have done was make her Secretary of State, because that gave her even more power.
Mm-hmm.
And everything she did as a Secretary of State, whew. Haiti, the nation of Haiti, is still hurting because of her.
Thank you.
Still hurting. They're still dirt poor. They're still dying. They're still hurting. While she raked in millions on their behalf.
Mm-hmm. The people in Haiti, the Haitian, the people out there in Haiti, they can't stand Hillary. They talks about what she's done. If anybody want to interview people, go interview everybody in in Haiti
Oh, phew.
about
Mm-hmm.
Hillary Clinton. They ain't said not one thing about Trump.
No.
Hmm.
Basically, anywhere where the Clinton Foundation had any business, they're usually left either just the same or worse off than they were before that foundation came along. Sorry, I'm shaking a little bit. It's cold out here tonight. Woo!
Yeah, it's cold out here too. 19
It is
degrees.
chilly. We Southern folk ain't used to this cold stuff.
Hmm. Except for beer.
We ain't opposed to a cold beer. No, I don't. I don't trust Hillary any further than I could kick her down an elevator shaft. Mm-mm. I'm ashamed to say that she and her husband are from this state I live in. Ugh.
Oh
Well,
yeah.
he was anyway. He was anyway. I don't know where she's from originally.
She's
He,
from Illinois. Illinois.
Oh, oh,
My
oh
home state.
no. Oh no. Oh goodness. Yeah, but the funny thing is, old Billy Boy being born in Hope, Arkansas, which is just a hop and skip down from where I live here. If you go to Hope, either sign on either side of town, birthplace of Bill Clinton, them signs are always riddled with bullet holes.
Mm.
People go out and shoot them signs up every chance they get. There's no telling how many they've gone through. In fact, not too long ago, a fire broke out in his little birth home there in town, and a lot of people aren't convinced that it wasn't intentional.
Hmm.
Not many people like him here. And the same thing in Hot Springs, where he grew up. The signs there usually get shot up too. There's not very many Arkansans that are fond of him.
Man, they shooting up signs like Like,
Yeah,
yeah,
he gave this state a bad rep. He really did with his extracurricular activities.
man, the hillbillies ain't playing with his ass. They shit
No, no,
nothing.
I can't think of too many people that like him.
Mm, mm-hmm.
Not really. You might find some here in central Arkansas that still think he was a great president, but they're few and far between.
Is that liberal? Central Arkansas?
Yeah, there's sections of Arkansas that are pretty blue.
Okay, okay.
Central Arkansas, the Little Rock area, they usually vote blue. And the northwest corner of Arkansas, like Fayetteville, the college area,
Mm-hmm.
they're pretty liberal, but thank God the state is still red enough to be red. I mean, if they went by populations, then it'd be blue across the board every time.
Mm.
A lot of places go like that, as far as the electoral college goes. You find a lot of the heavily populated areas determine how a state votes, and it's strange. I still can't entirely figure out that whole system. It's weird. I always figured a popular vote should be enough, you know apparently it isn't.
Yep.
I tried
Apparently.
explaining it to my nephew. He's 12. He's like, well, don't you just vote and they win? I'm like, well, how do you explain that to a kid,
Mm-hmm.
when everything in your common sense says, well, yeah, boy, our vote is what gets it, but it kind of doesn't. I'm convinced that it really doesn't work, but that's just me.
Mm. Hey, that's how you feel, I mean, I'm almost convinced too. You see, I heard I say I'm almost convinced too. So sometimes you can be unsure over things.
Well, I mean, you look at the numbers. I look at numbers. I look at figures. And
Mm-hmm.
all you got to do is look at Congress, that snake pit called Congress,
Yeah.
where for the last 5 years they've had anywhere from a 9% to a 23% approval rating. Approval rating. Right now, I think they're sitting at about 18%, maybe. And yet, every midterm, between 90 to 97% of them retain their seats. That tells me that there's something very wrong with the system, and that maybe it's not so much voting, but more of a money,
Money, money, money, money, money,
you
money.
know, with all these lobbyists and these PACs and super PACs, these campaign contributors. What man needs to raise $722 million to be a president? Obama did that in 2012.
Mm.
When if the votes mattered, why did he need that kind of money?
Yep.
Makes you think, it's made me think very closely,
Mm.
very carefully. And I'm no longer convinced that the American vote is what gets it done anymore.
Yep.
It's hard to believe anymore for me.
Yep.
And that standpoint tends to get a little friction from people. But, about as much as the Confederate flag, you try to convince somebody that voting something's messing up, it's as hard as saying, hey, the Confederate flag's not racist. It's not. It's the same challenge.
Yep.
But I try, you know.
Yeah.
I tell people there's not a racist bone in my body, not one bit. I've never hated anyone for the color of their skin, ever.
Right, 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 right. And hate is a strong word. Do they understand that hate is a strong word? And I have kicked it at these Trump rallies, and I'm talking about like from out of state and everything. And I'm looking
Mm-hmm.
like, them the nicest, man. I'm telling you, it's the nicest
Yeah,
people I ever met in my life.
yeah.
Like, what the heck? Take you in. Like, I had to go to the hotels. Like, come on, you can stay at my crib. All right. I'm like, huh,
Mm-hmm.
what?
Yeah.
Cool and stuff, man. Give me hospitality, you know what I'm saying? And
Oh,
pick
yeah.
you up from the station and drive you where you got to go to get something to eat. I'm like,
Yeah.
these people are racist?
The bulk of Trump supporters are decent people. They're hardworking people. They're average people of all colors. There's not a majority of this race that supports him or that race. It's pretty even mix. And Hillary, in her wildest dreams, couldn't muster up that kind of support. And that should tell her something.
Mm-hmm.
You are the company you keep, I guess.
Yes. Next.
I mean, your husband's a serial rapist, lied under oath and got away with it.
Yep.
Escaped impeachment by like one or two votes, You and Benghazi, what does it matter? I mean, she should have known going into that race in 2016 that it was stacked against her.
Mm-hmm.
But she's still salty about it. If you didn't notice at HW's funeral, boy, she was salty.
Mm-hmm.
Need some margarita with that salt. Ooh, she, she, she was throwing shade
Ooh, wow.
hard. I'm like, dang, girl. I mean, I've lost some things in my life, but I learned to let it go. Let go of it.
The Clintons are evil, including their daughter, Chelsea. They all are
Ooh,
evil.
and nothing would surprise me if they were grooming that girl to try and get into their line of politics.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the root of their evil I'm going to pin on Hillary. That woman is some conniving work. She ain't nothing to like her body bag count shows. I mean, she's nothing to mess with. If you're feeling sad with your life and you feel like you want to end it, just go on TV and say I got information that could lead to the arrest of Hillary Clinton. You'll be dead within 2 days.
Mm-hmm.
Guaranteed.
Yes.
And she's got all her outside mysterious connections. Everybody still connects her to JFK Jr., and I tend to do the same. A guy who was a very, very good pilot. He spent many, many hours training and flying. You're going to tell me he just suddenly lost it and crashed his plane? People don't realize is that he was going for that New York Senate seat in 1999, and that's the same seat she was eyeballing.
Mm-hmm.
And then he winds up dead. Guess who got the seat? Forest for the trees, Mo. That
Mm.
woman is evil to the
Yeah,
core.
yeah. Evil, evil Knievel. She's evil. She's hateful. And oh wow, she had the now she people want to talk about Trump as the Antichrist. Who got no, that's an Antichrist spirit right there.
I don't think Trump ain't no evil. He ain't Antichrist. I
Right.
don't know if he's going to miraculously change everything, but
No.
if nothing else, his legacy will be known to me
Yeah.
as shining a light on the division in this country. I mean, we've always had division. We've always been at odds about things, but when he
Mhm.
took office, he turned the spotlight on the country and showed it for all the ugliness it is. And it truly is ugly.
Mm-hmm.
Division in this country. It is some of
Yes.
the worst I've ever known.
Oh, this is the worst I have known. Look, like you just said, shine a light. You know, I believe he was sent here to slow things down, to get
Yeah.
us prepared, to prepare.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? It's gonna be a purge. We are being prepared for the purge. That's
Hmm. I believe that. I believe he's something of a he's a break. He's a momentary breath because whether he makes it to 2020 or not,
yep.
what's coming after him is not going to be pretty. It's not.
Mm-mm.
And that's what people need to really start thinking about. I know they're all happy he's president, but they need to start shifting their mind into that gear. What happens post Trump? Because there's always the possibility coming up next month, and it's a theory that I've thought about, and you let me know what you think.
Okay.
And that is, there's a good possibility he might not make it to 2020,
It is.
and that has to do with Congress. The Democrats got the House.
Mm-hmm.
They take the House in January, and the instant they do this, they're going to put forth an article of impeachment because they're already trying to indict him for campaign contributions. Something going on there I'm going to have to look into.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to push that article through. It's going to pass through the House because it's Democrat controlled. It then goes to the Senate. And the Senate is where it could all go down. It will show us how many rhinos are in the Senate. Because if it passes the Senate, then Trump is impeached. He's gone. He will be the first president in our history to be fully impeached. No other president's been fully knocked out. Not Clinton was impeached through the House. He survived by the Senate. Andrew Johnson was impeached by the House way
Mm-hmm.
1800s, and he survived through the Senate. They were going to get Nixon, but he resigned before they could nail him. If they coerce the Senate by bribes or threats or God knows what to push that article through. What's happening in Paris right now is going to happen here. This
Hmm.
country will explode. That will be the spark that sets us off. If it happens, I hope it doesn't.
And then I'll be like, liberals, are y'all
Ooh.
happy now? Be careful what you wish for. And
Mm.
walk away, and we still fight. We still fight.
Oh, if they impeach him next year, it's going to be more than words. It's going to be a lot more than words. There's going to be a lot of popping off, and it ain't going to be pretty.
Hmm.
I hope it don't happen, but when you think about it, how this government's been toward him, it's not as far fetched as you would
Hmm.
imagine. You know,
Yep.
there's the vast majority of DC wants him gone. The government don't
Mhm.
like him,
They don't. They don't. They don't.
so it's not so. Oh, that could never happen. No, it's not like that now. I mean, any other president, I'd say, yeah, they're gonna impeach Obama. Nah, it won't make it through this. It won't go by that. They're gonna impeach W. No, it won't happen. Trump is a different matter. Totally different matter. So
This
keep
is
your
why we got to
eyes.
fight. This is why it's important for us to fight because
Yeah.
he can be impeached, but we have to
Yeah.
fight. We can't sit there like, no, he gonna be good. No, no, no. We got to sit there and control the infighting and just get the rhinos away. We got to be the one. We the people are important.
I say we need to be ready to maybe I don't know so much fighting for politicians as it is to get ready to defend ourselves. Because if it's true that the votes really aren't that pivotal in elections and money is what puts them in, then our fighting is very limited. It would be more along the lines of being able to defend ourselves.
But if they impeach him, wouldn't Mike Pence be the
That he would. That he would. And who's to say he wouldn't decide to appoint Trump as his VP?
I was gonna say that. Oh, you took the word.
Definitely. And
That,
then
that's
for some reason, Pence can't exactly perform his duties and he has to step down. Who becomes president?
So
I mean,
next checkmate.
I'm hoping that impeachment doesn't happen, but up until midterms, I didn't really think of it as a possibility. But when they took the House, I thought, uh oh, because we all know how shifty those people are. Senate, House doesn't matter. Most of them are driven by this, driven by the power of it. Very few of
The
those people
power.
actually represent the people.
Mm,
It's not the government that it should be.
yeah.
Not by a stretch. But we'll see. Next month is coming. We'll see what happens. If it kicks off as an impeachment process, you're gonna see a lot of unrest going on. It's gonna start getting hectic, and that's sad that our country would be to that point. Like I said, I've never seen this level of division between people. It's it's sad, really, but I think about what France has going on with their situation. I'm like, we're not that bad off yet. I mean, we're as taxed as they are, but we're not pushed to their breaking point yet. It wouldn't
Yeah.
take much, and I think a impeachment of Trump would probably be the thing to tip it. I could be wrong. I hope I am.
You know
I really
what?
do.
I'm very positive on this, and I believe in everything is in the plan right now.
Oh yeah.
All I know is our president. He is always the one who is always a step ahead of the game. He's a step ahead.
Oh, I'm sure he's already got had a plan in place for something like this. What's going to happen if this happens? I think he takes a chess approach to it. And while they're busy thinking about this, he's already two moves ahead, looking at that third move. I mean, I know I've said it before that my trust in him's not 100%, but I don't trust anyone in politics. That's just my own personal rule. It's just how it's just the cynic I've become over the years. But I trust that he, in his mind, knows his steps. As a businessman, you don't get to be a billionaire by not knowing what you're doing. So I'm pretty sure he's got some close people around him that are, keeping him in touch with everything, and he's got his plans already measured out. Just,
Yeah, hold on. Someone in the chat room said, I think Trump let them take the house, but it's just my observation.
well, I mean, a president really can't let anyone take anything. I mean, like I guess my natural reaction is almost to say, well, they were voted, but voting is such a shifty thing now that I don't really know if it actually is that gets them there, or if it's all the contributions of money that come from who knows what, everywhere from the stock market to very, very rich business interests, lobbyists who want this Democrat in this seat, this Republican in that seat. Money is what shifts a lot of things in this country, and government is one of them. Um, I think once upon our time, our votes may have made some impact, may have made some differences, but that's pretty much a bygone era, really. But that, like I said, that's just my viewpoint. And this came from me being a voter for 18 years. I voted for 18 years from the moment I turned 18 until 2016. I was a voter, registered voter.
Okay.
I say was because I don't vote. I don't vote anymore. It burned me out. All the politics, the mudslinging, these people who are elected who do not represent like they say
Hmm.
they will. It burned me out. And people give me flack about not voting, that I'm not American, I'm not fulfilling my duty. I'm like, dude, I put in 18 years of fulfilling my duty, and almost every single vote I cast went for nothing. Nothing came of it. It was just one disappointment after another after another. After 18 years, I'm like, why? Why? Why do I do it? And then, you start reading and researching things, and you see this money factor come in, and you're just like, well, and in 2012, I think it was the head, or was it 2016, the head of the DNC, the
Yeah.
Democratic National Committee, he said it on live television, if anyone remembers. He said, quote, "The people's votes don't matter anyway. We'll get it." And I'm like, he just let the cat out of the bag, y'all.
Ooh,
When a
listen,
chairman of the Democratic National Committee says your votes don't matter, maybe he knows something you don't,
thank
you
you.
know?
Hmm.
So seeing that and my own local elections, I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to sit it out for a while and let the money do what the money does. I mean, there's people always shy away from the idea of the third party. A third party, whether it's independent or libertarian, or no one wants to vote for a third party because it's been pounded into their heads that it's just two parties and that's just all there is. And that's not all there is. There is
Hmm.
another possibility if people would take a chance on it. But no one does because they've all been fed the same garbage on the
Mm.
media and everywhere they look. If you're not
Woo.
red, you're blue. If you're not blue, you're red, and you're a loser, and this side's better. I hate
Mm.
sides.
You
I,
spitting facts, truth.
yeah, I despise sides. That's the Libra in me talking. I don't like sides. And then now, in the last few years, it's become so polarizing. You've got to be on this side or that side. And I hate you because you're this side. I'm like, are you kidding me, people? I mean, have we forgotten about 17 years ago in this country when, for a short period of time, there were no sides? You remember that? A couple of towers got knocked down.
Mm.
And for a short period of time, Americans were simply Americans.
Yes.
They weren't black, they weren't white, they weren't Republican or Democrat. It was the most beautiful thing I've ever witnessed in my life. Sad that it came from a tragedy. But for that small window, we were all just Americans. Nobody hated anybody. I've never seen anything like it before or since.
Mm. Real
And
talk.
I look back at that and I look now and I'm like, man, you people are out of your minds. Quit hating each other for this. Why
Yeah,
should we ever hate each other over politics?
right over politics.
These people that are in power are going to impose their laws on us and control our lives no matter what we do or say or who we vote for or who we hate for voting for this one or that one. The people that are in power don't represent like they should, but people get so pent up in it, you know?
Right.
And it kills me. The whole thing burned me out to where I am apolitical now. I don't vote. I do not jump to one side or the other. I just sit in the middle and go, "Oh my God." It's like you're at the Thanksgiving table and
Yeah. Yeah.
Uncle Randy and Grandpa Tim are arguing over an election and you're just like, "Really?" You know?
Wow. I like how you put that. I like how you came out with that. I like how you delivered that. Wow.
I grew up seeing that kind of stuff, you know. Sometimes, you know, I grew up with step family more than real family. My relatives weren't exactly close, so I grew up with my step family a lot. And at Thanksgiving, you know, they'd be all around the living room, and this one would be squawking about this guy, and that one would be squawking about that guy. I'd just be eating my turkey, going, "Uh-huh." I'm like, "Okay, I'm going outside to play. Y'all just do whatever, you know." And seeing that as a kid, and then throughout the years, the country's adopted the same mentality of,
Mhm.
you know, if you're not on this side, you're just dirt, and you're on
Yep.
that side, you're racist, you're evil. My God, why can't we just be Americans and look to the ones that are pulling the strings?
Yes. Because I'm gonna say this: none of us don't want to go back to our old original country that our ancestors come from. I don't want to go back to Africa. I love America. A lot of y'all white people, whatever, y'all don't want to go back to Italy or Germany, wherever you came from. A lot of you Mexicans. That's why y'all trying to come out over here, Puerto Rico. No, they with us, Puerto Rican, Puerto Rico. But look, I get them mixed up sometimes. But you got Chinese, China. They don't want to go back to China. They're coming down here. So
Yeah.
why? Look, you know why? We the land of opportunity, the land of opportunities. There's no opportunities out there. It's like down there, it's like you enslave. The thing is, they want to come down here to the land of opportunities just to be enslaved again.
Oh my goodness. You see, and I had that same approach to an extent, but I think any country can be made great if its people will stay there and be dedicated. I mean,
Yeah.
you look at Iceland, little bitty little island, a little spit of land out in the water. They were up to their eyeballs in debt. Their people were poor. They were broke. They were unemployed. Their government actually got in, kicked all the bankers out of Iceland, said, "You're out of here. Go away. We don't want you." And now they're prospering. Instead of the people fleeing, they stayed. And because of what they did, Iceland is making the rebound. They're doing great. And it can be done in any and every country. These people don't have to flee their lands and come here, you know, thinking that they could have it. They can have it just as well where they are if they would stay put and start from the bottom up. The people in France right now who are going absolutely insane over their crazy little pansy president trying to tax them to death, plus all the other issues France is having, they're not fleeing. They're not trying to run to Germany. They're not trying to run to Spain or Italy. They're staying in their country and they're fighting
Mm.
figuratively and literally. And it's starting, you know, it's made something of a difference. I mean, their government has backed down off that tax,
Okay.
even though the president has brought in tanks, which
Yeah.
is sad, but they're fighting. They're not running. You know, don't run. I mean, if things get really bad here, do you think we're all going to just suddenly up and run to Canada?
Nope.
No. You stay put, you dig in, do what the South has done all our lives. We dig in and we make it.
That's why I love the South. The South is some warriors. South
A
is
lot of
thick-skinned, and
a lot of
I
people
love the
like to
South.
hate us, Mo. They do, and I've kind of got a theory on that, and that is because for ever since 1865, when all we lost was a military engagement,
Yes.
we have been demonized and kept in pure poverty and total stigma, but we dig in, we stay put. We never lost our pride. Never lost our pride, which is
Mhm.
why a lot of people are proud to fly that flag behind you because it's, to us, that is a symbol of a people's attempt to be free
Southern pride.
from federal overreach, federal tyranny. They said, we've had enough. We want to be done. Leave us alone. Feds didn't like that, but they didn't take our pride. And a lot of people don't like that because where they would have difficulties, we survive. We know how. If things go crazy tomorrow in this country and people start losing power and finances and means, we know how to kick it in the woods and live. We can make
Oh,
it. The South will be a stronghold if this country ever goes bad. It really will. They don't
through the
call us the
purge,
Bible Belt for nothing,
through the
you
drought,
know?
through the drought, through the
All
drought. The
manner. I
South
mean,
can
yeah,
make it through the drought.
the Great Depression, I mean, that broke people up north. There were people jumping out of windows, killing themselves. People in the South were already poor. This we were like,
Mhm.
okay,
Yeah.
and this is nothing. Y'all are seeing, y'all are getting a taste of what we've got.
Woo!
We know how to, we can survive. And the thing is, we're not
Yeah.
unaccommodating. Y'all come on down. Y'all come on down.
Look, y'all
Y'all,
get y'all a squirrel. Look, ain't got no food. That's all right. I see a squirrel out there. Bloop. Let's go ahead. Roast that
shoot.
squirrel and we good.
If there's crazy just going on and there's no food in the stores, I got deer out in the woods, man. I got
Yeah.
food. I got food. I tell that to any northern friend who's like, "Man, I wish I could be in the South." I'm like, come on down. We'd be glad to have you.
This is why I fuck with y'all. Ooh, I ain't trying to use the F word on my phone. All right. I'll edit later. But anyway,
I'd be glad
no,
to
I
have
ain't
y'all.
gonna.
Come
I say
on
fuck.
down.
You can cuss on my channel. I don't care. I just try.
Yeah, I'll curb my potty mouth as a guest. I can be potty mouth.
Yeah. I just slipped this in. I got to go back and edit. I got to put a bleep on it. I ain't gonna do all that. I'll just leave it. I'll leave
Hey,
it.
there's an old saying in the South, Mo, and it to me it describes us. You know, as far as the good people here, because there are some really rotten individuals in the South. There can be some really nasty characters. But for the decent folk, and there's plenty of us, the old saying goes, if I got a biscuit, you got half.
Mm,
Because that's how it is with us, you know? If you're hurting, let us know. We'll be there. We'll help you. And
yep.
that's part of the thing that's had me so frustrated with our issues with our monuments. And I've made posts about it. I've gotten angry about it because a town will decide to take down a monument. Some of its residents will be like, this is wrong. We should stand for it. Who will help us? No one from the outside comes to stand with us. No one. You know, New Orleans, there were Louisiana people. People came in from Arkansas, from Tennessee, from Mississippi, I think some from Texas, but nobody north of that Mason Dixon came down, you know?
Mm,
And it's happened over and over and over, you know, and we're like, please help us, stand with us, let them know that it's not okay. Nobody comes down here. And I got mad one night and I made a post and I'm like, all right then, if that's how it's gonna be, when they start taking down y'all stuff up north and y'all start crying to us to come stand with you, I'm gonna sit on my porch, I'm gonna sing Dixie, and I'm gonna laugh. And I know that's a mean approach, but I
That's
mean that comes from frustration after one after another gets pulled, a road name gets changed, a school gets renamed, and we're just like, why won't y'all stand with us? I know you're not too keen on the Southern monuments, or the way I see it, they're scared of being attached to the same stigma we're stuck with. Oh, we don't want to stand with you because everybody thinks you're racists and traitors. We don't want to stand with that.
mm-hmm.
That misleading, you know, it keeps people scared. And that's what the government wants. They want us scared, afraid of each other, and divided against each other and fighting, because that keeps them right where they are, doing what they do while we're busy squabbling. If you know, if that monument in Chicago was getting ready, that gravestone was being ready to be torn down, I
Yeah.
would pray that I wasn't the only one. I would pray that there would be other Southerners and Northerners come up and say, "Okay, enough's
Yeah.
enough."
Enough is enough.
I would hope that.
You got a
I would hope.
Midwestern that's going to support y'all. So hey,
I hope the same. I'd hope the same thing in New Orleans, and in Dallas, and in all these other southern towns where their liberal city communities, you know, councils just decided, well, we're gonna take it down. Memphis, they didn't even vote They tore them down in the middle of the night.
Mm.
Somebody bought a city park on the cheap so that they could take the monuments down. No vote, nothing announced in the news, no people giving notice so they could give their voice to it. No, it was decided behind closed doors, and they were gone before we even knew what happened.
Mm.
I mean, how would you feel if there was a monument to one of your ancestors? Say you had an ancestor who was a slave, and there's a monument to the slavery,
Yeah.
and people just decided, well, this is offensive, and we're tearing it down,
Oh
but they
my
didn't
gosh,
let
you
you
want to mess
know.
with my heritage? Ooh,
Yeah,
heritage, not hate. You
yeah.
dumbasses.
Say say there's a statue of Martin Luther King, and some fool out there decided that he offends them, but there's no votes, there's no city meetings, there's nothing. They just decide at nighttime, and next thing you know, they're out there with a crane, and they're covering their faces, and they're just boop, taking it. Because
Mm.
that's what happened in Memphis with Nathan Forrest,
Yep, I remember that.
and that was on his grave. He's
Mm.
buried. He was buried under that monument, and they took it.
They took it. They don't have respect for the dead. They don't have respect for the dead.
No respect.
Huh.
No respect at all.
They're a
And I
bunch
would
of
have the
people.
same outrage if it was any other person, not just Nathan Forrest or Robert E. Lee. I would be pissed off if it was Thomas Jefferson or Martin Luther King or
Yeah,
Sojourner Truth. Leave them alone.
yeah, leave them alone.
Leave them alone. They never bothered anyone before.
Yep.
You look at Silent Sam in Durham. There's a picture of Michael Jordan standing underneath that monument with a smile on his face. That monument didn't oppress him. But a bunch of little liberal kids, little communist wannabes, decided it was a great idea to throw a rope around it and pull it down, while the cops stood there and watched
Mm.
and did nothing.
Nothing, huh?
Now, Silent Sam got put back up, and they are pissed about it. They're mad. Ooh, they're mad. And that, to me, that's a win. Put him back, leave him alone. He ain't that statue's hurt nobody. That's a monument to students at that university who fought and died
Why they mad though? Why they mad?
because those students were on the wrong side.
Yep.
You know how many times I've been called a traitor because of my heritage?
Mm-hmm.
It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
It's sad. It's so sad.
I
Like,
mean, people out there, white folks, most of us, the majority, we're not racists. Black folks, the majority of them ain't thugs. Get over these stigmas.
yeah.
Put them to bed. You know?
Thugs. Black people are thugs. Like, come on now, yo. I didn't even look. I just said earlier, I didn't grow up around all black people. I didn't grow up around black people. I didn't. But I
I
became a
didn't grow
thug
up around
anyway
all
when I
white
was younger.
people. I
Yeah, I
mean,
was a thug in a mixed gang. I was in a mixed gang growing up. I was not in the all black gang.
it's craziness. I mean, the
It was
people,
2% blacks in my gang.
these, these people are led by childish mentalities. When I was a child, I thought as a child, I spoke as a child, but then I grew up and put away childish things.
Yes.
People need to put stuff away and just
Yep.
focus on what's truly important, what really matters. The thing that oppresses a lot of people is not some bronze statue that's been standing since 1914.
Mm-hmm.
It's a small group of people in a little patch of land called DC that's what's oppressing you. The
Yep.
focus needs to shift to that.
I love your truth. Oh man. Look, I be watching you on Facebook. You be spitting that truth. So I look at you like this.
I,
Oh my
ju-
God,
I just wish
I be watching. I like to say, hold
I wish
on. You know
people
what
would
I'm saying?
wake up, man. I mean, we really don't have a lot of time. We don't. Not in this
Yeah,
country. The way things are, the way things are going, the way things have the potential of going.
yeah.
We're on borrowed time right now. Trump's giving us that borrowed time
More all time.
because what comes after him, it might not be Hillary, but it's going to be no more pretty. I promise you.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's a Democrat or a Republican, it's it's not going to be anything pleasant.
Mm-hmm.
And God help us if she runs again.
Oh wait. Y'all don't
Because
want that.
don't you know, her side's going to be back with a vengeance.
Yep.
It's sad that we war over that, over politics.
Yeah. Very sad.
It blows my mind at times. And I hate to see it. I really do. I hope we can get it together, start putting this small stuff aside,
Yep.
put our attention where it's needed. And
Mm-hmm.
if people think that's voting, then, keep voting. Do what you think works. For other people, if that's trying to get, a deeper truth out there, do it. Keep doing it. If it's standing for a cause you believe in, stand for it. I mean, people might not listen and it may not amount to much, but you can't say that you didn't.
Yep. You can't say
Every
that.
every monument in the South may be ripped down in another 3 years. It'll be the saddest thing I've ever known. But if they are, I can't look back and say, "Well, Jennifer, you just didn't stand up and say anything, did you?
Hey,
You
take it off
didn't."
for 1 minute. 1 minute. I'll be back. I got Russell 1 minute. Go
All
ahead.
right.
Let it go. Go ahead. Tear it up.
All right. Well, I've been given the reins, y'all. I'm on this Hangouts thing, so if there's comments, I can't see nothing. But thank y'all for watching. I love Mo. Mo's good people. Mo's cool cat with me. He talks real, and it takes a lot of gumption to walk around in certain areas with a Trump hat on. He does that, and I admire it. I'm like, man, you go on, look at you. But we have to do more than what we're doing. You can't you can't get anywhere in life when you judge the engine by the paint job. You just can't. People look at this Rebel Gray and they look at that CSA and they think, oh, she's just a racist bigot. Look at that traitor. Look at that loser. I haven't lost anything. I haven't lost anything, and I'm certainly not a bigot.
Yep.
That's not what that represents to me. You find your history, research your history, look through your ancestry. You might be surprised at what you find. I've been surprised by many ancestors. He's one of
I'm
them.
back.
All right, Mo's back.
No, you keep on
Woo!
talking. I'm back. Go ahead. You said your history. What you say? Go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it starts from the base, man. It starts from the self, from you on up. You find your history, you're surprised by it, and you learn history based in different things, and you're like, okay, so that's not how that happened. This ancestor is not what they think. You move on from there, and you go into other issues. You look at the history of certain events or issues, people, and you learn truth. Learning truth is amazing. I mean, the book of Hosea, said it best, my people are lost for lack of knowledge.
Yes.
Don't lack in knowledge. And that's not to trust every spoon-fed propaganda article on fake news, because that ain't truth. I've seen that downslide in my life, Mo. Back in the day, news used to be just news.
Mm-hmm.
The guy'd come on the air and he'd give you a few headlines. He'd say, let's go to our correspondent, and that person would tell that headline. It'd come back to him. He'd go over to weather. He'd go over to sports, and that was it. Your news was reported. Now, it's all opinion pieces and what they think of this and what they feel about that. And, well, what's your thoughts? And the news ain't about thoughts, it's about the news. What's happening in France? That's news. Report on it. Don't say what you think. Well, I think they're all just a bunch of anarchists. I think they're all just a bunch of socialists.
Say what you know.
Step back and look at what they're doing. They're to their breaking point. They're fighting back. Some of them are taking it a bit fiery, but if you leave something alone, it'll go unseen. You set
Yep.
it on fire, it'll get noticed. They're doing what they feel they have to do to be noticed. I've noticed it. And, personal history, I'm of French descent. Pretty heavy French descent. So what happens in France, I kind of feel that connection, and I've been to Paris. That is the most beautiful city you could ever hope to see.
Okay.
There's nothing like Paris. Nothing like it. It is gorgeous. Its architecture, there's nothing like it on earth. Its people are wonderful. The food, don't even get me going on the food. You ain't ate
Yeah.
till you've
Go
eaten in
ahead.
Paris. So yeah, I mean, I feel a connection when I see those people finally at their breaking point telling their president, "Okay, this is enough. We've had enough." I look at that and I go, "Yeah, tell him if our president was doing that to us, if they kept putting tax after tax until we just couldn't afford to live, then yeah, I would hope we'd stand up in tens of thousands and say, okay, we've had enough. You better do something." They're making a statement, and other countries in Europe are starting to rise up too. Even Canada's having enough. And seeing all that unrest right now has our government as nervous as they could possibly be, and that's right where they should be.
Ooh.
They should be afraid of us.
They
We
should.
should
They better be
never.
afraid of us.
We should never be afraid of them. Ever. They should be scared of us. People don't realize how heavily we outnumber them. All you got to do is search through YouTube. There's videos back in the 70s during Vietnam. Americans marched by the millions on DC. Millions on DC to end that war. Nobody stands up like that now. It's sad because we've gotten very complacent in the situation we're in. We're probably the most taxed nation on earth,
They
but
don't know
we
this. They don't know
we
that.
do we do or say you're literally taxed from birth to death.
Mm.
You're
And our
taxed for your
president
birth.
trying to save that.
You're taxed for your birth. You're taxed your entire life, and when you die, there's an inheritance tax put on you. They have you from the moment the doctor spanks you to the moment they put you in the dirt. But no one says anything. I guess because the amount's not too much. Your income, government takes 30 to 40% of it. It's gone. Poof, out of there. But no one says a word. The French just got a 30-cent imposed tax on their fuel. You're like, well, 30 cents ain't that bad. But when you consider they're paying 6.50 for
Come on.
a liter of gas, which is less than a gallon, that broke them. And they got a whole bunch of other grievances, but that tax did it.
Mm.
So, what's going to be our point? What's going to
Yep.
be that thing they do when we finally say, okay, it's enough? The red flag laws have good potential to be one of those breaking points. And if you've noticed, they're popping up more and more. This red flag nonsense where if your neighbor thinks you're disturbing, she can call the cops and they can come into your house, Mo, and take your weapons from you, and there's nothing you can
Hmm.
do about it.
Yep.
That's a red
Nothing.
flag law.
Y'all better listen. Y'all better pay attention. Y'all better watch out.
This is
Man,
happening. It's happening in Maryland. It's really heavy happening, and there's been at least one person killed over this
mm,
because he did not want to give over his weapons.
darn.
They killed him.
Mm, facts.
And what disturbs me was that Trump is not against this. He didn't really voice much of an opinion. In fact, his words that he said at a big table meeting was something along the lines of, let's take them first and do due process second.
Mm,
People, when your president says that, and the Democrat sitting next to him looks like she's ready to jump him off one, something's wrong.
yep.
I'm not saying Trump's the devil, but that right there sent a flag in my head. I was like, oh, what? And I literally heard him say it. You just said confiscate first and due process second. Are you out of your mind? No president has ever been that brazen to say something like that.
Mm,
Ever. Not even the ones that wanted to grab guns would dare to say that. He said it. And I'm like, you're like, what are you doing?
yeah.
What are you And now he's wanting to push the bump stock ban. People are like, oh well, bump stocks aren't a big thing. But when you look at your Second Amendment that says shall not be infringed, that is an infringement. Are you going to allow an infringement? And then how many more are you going to allow after that? It's sad what people find themselves agreeing to. Mo, you can't collect rainwater. You can't grow your own little front yard food garden. No, you
Mm-mm.
can't be self-sustaining.
Nope.
You really can't have any weapon you want, even
Right.
though the government can.
Yes, the government can.
If you and 60 of your good friends wanted to group up and march up to your Capitol building and right there openly, publicly address your grievances, you'd have to pay the city for a permit.
Mm.
And then they put you in a little fenced in area, calling it a freedom pen or a First Amendment area.
Come on.
Is that freedom?
Mm.
Are we free?
You better say it.
Your Fourth Amendment right, your right to your own privacy of your person, your home, your property. Civil forfeiture, where a cop can come and take what they want. Are you free? I could go on with this for hours to break down each freedom we think we have and to show that it's a privilege they've turned it into. Because if you have to pay for a right, it's not a right, it's a privilege. And privileges can be taken in a heartbeat.
Yes.
You don't believe me? Ask that guy in Maryland who just got killed over his own weapons.
Wow. Hey, down the line, down the line. No, when we end this video, I want I want many parts of this video. Look, listen, everybody. I want many parts of this because you got some stuff that's going on down there in the South. You know this, and I want you back on here.
I'd love to come back. I mean, we have to get to the base of the problem. We can't just keep scratching at the surface. The base of the problem is what the government has allowed us to think we have versus what we were always meant to have. There's a huge night and day difference, but decades of being told slowly and surely through media, through education, being told what you've got. It's pulled us so far away from what we started out as
Mm-hmm.
to what we've become now. And all that takes is researching, and if nothing else, talking to someone who has done extensive research, and they can fill you in, they can open your eyes, and that opening might not be pretty, but it's needed. It's necessary. It's vital to know that, that we the people are the most vital thing of this country. We're not the fourth branch of government. We are the first. For without us, there is no government. That's how it was intended. The just consent of the governed. That's us. What we allow. It's, Declaration of Independence. That to me, that's the most important document in our nation's history. That's what defines America. Not so much the Constitution. There's over 158 countries on earth that have constitutions. That's not what defines us. The Declaration defines us as giving the power to the people. We've long forgotten that. And it's
Mm-hmm.
sad. I hope
It,
people
it,
start to remember it.
yes, yes.
Hope I haven't jawed you too much, Mo. I could jabber.
No, no, that's what I wanted. You know what? I watched a video. I wanted you to come in. There's people on YouTube don't hear this. Most of my subscribers here on YouTube don't have a Facebook account. So this is the first time people seeing you on here. Because people, you know how people get all comfortable. They stay on Facebook. They stay on
Yeah.
YouTube. You know what I'm saying? It is what
Oh,
it is. And
I'm
so
longing to get away from Facebook. It's gotten
come on over
so
here. Look, you want to come on
ridiculous.
my shows over here? Let's do this. I'll be at
It's
night.
gotten so sad, man. And I've been on Facebook since 2006. My first profile, it got lost because of a password mess up. But I've been in Facebook since '06, since it began.
Yeah,
I wish they would revive MySpace and I could just migrate back to it because
yeah.
there was never problems on MySpace. You had your profile, you had your
Mm-hmm.
music, you had your friends. It was great. Facebook started off that way.
Yeah.
Zuckerberg took it political, and I think the government is using quite a bit of it to keep an eye
Yes.
on people,
Say it.
to keep an eye on the ones that may be dissenters. You know,
Woo!
people like me. I mean, I've researched it. According to Donald Trump's DHS, I'm what's categorized as a right-wing extremist
Yes, you are.
because
See, far right. You far right. You consider far right.
I value individual liberty. I value state sovereignty. I value extremely limited government, as in they're only meant to protect our rights and our borders. They're not meant to govern us. That's not how we started, if people will just learn. We never started like this. This is not how it was ever supposed to be. We were individual states, our own little countries of governance. We were joined by a compact of what you would call brotherhood, of connection. You know, if some threat came over, we'd all band together, we'd all defend. But we were our own governing countries. From Arkansas to Illinois, you were your own. That's where the term sovereign state came from. We've gone so far from that. It's not even, we have become a centralized, totalitarian government. And totalitarian means tightly centralized and very heavily against any dissent, any kind of veering from what it is, to controlling almost every aspect of life, which is what our government does. You look at DC, there's a department for everything now. Everything. From power, electricity, to education, to agriculture. Everything has a department now, and that's
Hmm.
how they wanted it to be, so that they could have their claws in it, and all we could do was say, okay, all right. Never what our founders wanted, ever. And I really want people to just start learning about this stuff. I learned it from a really great man. His name's Michael Gaddy.
Okay.
Michael Gaddy. On Facebook, he goes by the name J. David Ferguson. He's been teaching about Southern history and about the history of the government for
That's Michael
30
Gabbard. Write it
years.
down because I want to research the dude. I want to look at more.
Definitely. He is worth it. He has forgotten more about Southern history and the history of the federal government than I could learn in my life. And he's the one who's helped open my eyes to tons of things. Things I never knew was real. It your mind just peels open. You're like, oh my God. Okay, so the government was never meant to be like this. He's like, hardly. I'm like, wow. It's like, okay, so in this current climate, what's the best thing? I asked him 3 years ago,
Okay.
what's the best thing I can do right now, considering where everything is? He said one word. He said, prepare.
Prepare.
Okay, prepare. Regardless of who is coming into presidential office, regardless of what war or conflict we might get into, he said,
Yes.
prepare, which means to get ready for when anything could or would go down bad in this country.
Mm. Yes.
There's always been that potential,
Hmm.
and it gets a little bit more likely as things get more chaotic.
Yes.
So yeah, he's a good man. Good Lord, he travels all over the
I
state
gotta check
here.
dude out. I gotta check dude out because I'm very open minded. I want to
Yes.
learn. You know what I'm
Oh,
saying? I want to take my platform to a different level. That's what I'm doing. I'm taking it to a different.
oh, this man will blow your mind open, Mo. I'm not even kidding. What you think you know about government, the history of it, what you think you know about
You
Southern
said
history, what
Michael
they
Gabby,
teach in
right? I'm
school.
studying him tomorrow. Then Michael Gabby. I'm going. Look, I'm
Yep,
gonna study.
J. David Ferguson. He uses a friend's name, a friend of his that passed away. The name he uses on Facebook, but his name's Michael Gaddy. He's a good dude.
Oh, Gaddy. I said Gabby. Gaddy. Hold
Mm-hmm.
on. I got.
Gaddy.
Yep. I said Gaddy.
Anybody else watching? If you're on Facebook, look him up. J. David Ferguson.
We got a
Smart
huge
man.
audience watching us right now. I usually don't get this time of the night. It'd be like after 10 or 11 o'clock, and
It's
as
that
good as
title, Mo. That title.
that title. And the,
It's,
I'm
that
gonna make
title
look.
brings
I,
it
I
in.
want two. I want four more parts to this title. Okay, part two coming up. I'm actually gonna edit and say part one or episode one.
Definitely.
I'm gonna say episode one. What the heck? For they can say,
People see the title and they're like, ooh, this gonna be some good racist stuff. I better get in here and watch.
yes,
Anything but, man. To
yes.
some hateful groups with pointy white hoods or bald skinheads going Sieg Heil, yeah, that flag they have turned into a symbol of hatred. And it has cast a shadow of hatred on every decent Southerner who to that flag means honor, integrity, pride, the yearning to be truly free. Because not every Southerner held on to slaves. And the ones who did, trust me, they're answering for it in the by and by.
This is why I reach out. This is why I reach out to you. I look at you on Facebook. I be on YouTube. I look at this. You know what? I gotta get you over here on YouTube Live with me. You do,
Oh
because
yeah.
people don't know who you are. And they don't hear the message. They don't hear this. So
And
like I have to do
that's
this.
my affiliation. I identify. I hate to use that word because it's so sketchy today, but I affiliate as a Confederate Southern Loyalist and secessionist. That's what apparently I am my own group. There's not anyone else that holds that title. But and it's simple, Confederate, I'm a descendant of a Confederate. Southerner, a Southern because I was born in the South, loyalist because I'm loyal to both until death, and secessionist because I fully believe to this day in our right to secede. If in Illinois there's some new laws that come along that just start breaking people, don't you think you should have the right to at least make a move to break away from it?
Yep.
If something is got you pinned down so hard that you can barely make a living, or something that has control over you like you've never had,
Right.
that was what was happening in the South. They put one of the worst taxes in history on the South. It's called the moral tariff, and it was a tax on their import exports because agriculture, they were exporting a lot of cotton, they were exporting a lot of tobacco. But Lincoln saw the best way to get the South by the balls was to hit them with the tax, and it was a 70% tax. It was bankrupting the South, who was already not that rich, not that horribly rich. The South was doing good in agriculture, but the
True.
North had the industry. They had
Yes.
industry.
Come on. Real news.
It was an equal mix. The North had industry, and they were doing well in that, but they didn't have quite the money.
She
The
says
South was doing well in agriculture, but we didn't have quite the money. It was a mutual thing. And the government was feeding fat off of both of them. And when the South suddenly, when they decided, okay, is enough, we're breaking away, Lincoln cracked a chicken and said, not that money. You're coming back. He tried to coerce them back. He tried to sell out the black people to their masters. Because even before he was president, he didn't care about the slaves. He didn't care that there were slaves.
no.
He said in 2 years before he was president, he said, "I have no intent or desire to free anyone." And he didn't. He didn't think that the blacks should be free amongst the white people to mingle or intermarry or anything. He thought they were just fine right where they were.
Mm.
But when the South broke away, he said, well, there goes the money. I better yank them back in. They wouldn't come back with an amendment, so he invaded. He declared war illegally, and he invaded. After 2 years of fighting, he realized the South is not giving up. And that's when he threw out the Emancipation Proclamation. He had to do something, because
Woo.
what people don't know is that England and France
Come on.
were a breath away from helping the South.
Hallelujah. Hallelujah.
Nobody's taught that either.
Hallelujah.
England and France recognized the Confederate States of America as what is called a belligerent state. That's a nation in the making. And
Oh,
they were within a breath of sending troops over to help us fight.
everybody
So
share this.
Lincoln had to give them something to keep them away and to try and end what we weren't giving up on.
Oh, I'm sharing on Twitter.
So
I'm sharing this
he
on Twitter
put
right now.
out the proclamation, which freed only Southern slaves. See, the North had slaves too, plenty of them. The difference was instead of cotton fields, they were given soup ladles and aprons. Instead of slaves, they were called the help.
The help, the help.
And the proclamation did not free them
Yeah.
until 2 years later. Ulysses S. Grant, the incoming president, when Lincoln was popped off, they said, why haven't you released your slaves? He said, well, good help's hard to find.
Hmm.
The truth is there, man.
Oh, the truth is
It's
there. The truth is there. All
and it's
right.
nothing what we're taught. And that's the crazy thing. I was taught the same thing as everyone else as a kid. To me, Abraham Lincoln was honest Abe. He was a great man. He stopped a horrible war. And then a few years ago, thanks to Michael Gaddy mostly, I learned the truth about Lincoln and that war, and it was the exact opposite of what kids are taught today, of what your parents were taught, your grandparents, your great grandparents. Generations taught, misled on purpose by the government, because God forbid we find out what the government did, which was as tyrannical as anything you could ever think. Lincoln wouldn't have that gigantic monument in D.C., him sitting on a big marble throne, if people knew what he
Yes.
did.
Say it. You better say it.
They wouldn't. He wouldn't be revered. He wouldn't be on the penny or the $5 bill. If people knew that he suspended the writ of habeas corpus, if he had over 40,000 Northerners imprisoned because they objected to his war,
Take it
he
away
shut
for
down
1 minute.
over 400 printing presses in the North because they were printing stories objecting to the war. He shut down free speech to his Northern people. That man was more of a tyrant than anything else we could ever imagine. People say Obama was the worst president. We are where we're at right now because of the actions of Lincoln. His actions opened up the government to realize just how much they could control the people through force or threat of force, which is why so many people are told, no, we can't secede. No, there's already a war fought over that. It's not illegal. It wasn't illegal then. It's not illegal now. But to the victors of wars go the spoils of the pen, and they get to write how history went, whether it went that way or not. And don't get me twisted. I'm not going to sit here and say slavery was never a factor. Slavery was a factor to the ones who owned slaves,
Right.
not to the ones who didn't. You can't convince me that 600,000 men took up arms to fight against an invader just so some rich white guys and black guys, because there were blacks who owned slaves, could keep them. No, it was a small piece in a very big puzzle.
Ooh.
And slavery in the whole of America at that time was on its way out. It was declining. It was in decline. It just, things take time, and it would have been done. It would have been over. Lincoln could have avoided the whole thing if he had just freed the slaves at the outset, before the war even began.
Oh,
Why
oh, you
didn't
said
he?
before the war had begun.
That's questions I ask people when I'm at my Confederate flag rallies, and the people on the other side of the hedge call me racist. Well, you lost that war and Lincoln freed the slaves. I'm like, really? Why did he try to set them free halfway through the war? Why didn't he do it
Oh,
beforehand?
oh,
They're like, well. I was like, what about the
this
Corwin
stuff is
Amendment
bound to
where he
happen.
tried to make them slaves forever? Ooh. You'll get crickets in a hurry if you put facts on them.
Oh, you gotta love her. Y'all gotta love her, man.
I'm just saying, you put the facts to them, you'll hear the crickets chirping, or you hear a bunch of stuttering.
Church, hamana, 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 hamana. Come on.
He could have avoided so much blood, and maybe our government wouldn't be what it is today had he not done what he did. But he was coerced by money, by control, by outside banking forces. There's so
Damn.
much there's so much depth. There's a rabbit hole to that whole war. It's a lot more than some slave owning southerners that wanted to keep their slaves. No. If people got to the bottom of that truth, your whole perception of that entire era would be blown open.
Wow.
And you'd be ready to face a lot of these haters and let them know just how misled they are.
Wow.
Whew, telling you,
So,
Michael
you said,
Gaddy put the facts on me, and I sat there just shaking my head. I'm like, you're kidding. He showed me books after books, chapter after chapter. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. It's there, black and white, in print.
like it or not, look, it's there.
There's no denying. You can't deny it. The best you can do is cover it over, and that's what our government did.
Yeah. You say you off work Thursday, right?
Yes, sir.
So you coming back on here for part two Wednesday.
All right. Heck
this
yeah.
this will be lit. No, no, I ain't.
So,
We ain't in the feed right now because this is not going to stop because truth needs to come out. Look, now you can tell them how you really feel on Wednesday, which is you can go ahead.
oh, I get into some fiery Facebook lives on occasion, and I tend to make them lengthy too. I think you got like a 4 hour limit on Facebook, and I'll push it to that 3 hour 45 minute mark. Just talking about everything. I rattle all over the
Yes,
place.
you do. And
I tend to derail and go off to other subjects because my mind just pops up like that. I'm like, well, we're talking about the Constitution, and wait, oh wait, yeah, this. We're getting on this. I'm like, oh wait, that too, because a lot of things tie together. All of this is
y'all
tied
know me.
together.
I bring people real over here. Y'all know me like This
And you, Mo, I love watching you, man.
I
You're
love
cool.
watching you. I be watching you. Be like, I be like, oh my god. A lot of times I be going through a depression at times. You know what I'm saying? Seriously, I go on live feed. You pop out of nowhere like this. Hold on, let me see what you got to say. I look, I just say a few comments, and I sit there to have my little few sips or something. Like
Mm-hmm.
you make me feel like I can be a real person. And
I mean, we're all real people if we would just get over certain things, you know?
yeah, you said Mo is the
Like I said, 17 years ago, Mo, we were just people.
yeah,
And it's sad that something like that brought that out of us. But out of tragedy, the best of a person can come out. And I
yes,
don't want there to be constant tragedy so we can be better people. We need to take that and just bring it out naturally now, you know?
yep,
We can all be just people. I mean, geez, if folks don't understand, but the government understands that if the people in this country would drop their skin color, drop what they think is oppression, get together in your communities, in your towns, in your states, band up, make a group, make a big group, get it bigger, and then everybody turn their eyes to DC, that little handful of Congress would completely piss their pants
mm,
because they thrive on us being divided. That whole divide and conquer thing,
yeah,
they
yeah.
got it down, son.
Come on.
Lincoln taught them well. Divide them,
Mm-hmm.
conquer them.
We need to talk about this more. Oh.
People, I'm a person. You're a person. Don't, I'm not a Caucasian. I'm just Jennifer. You're not African American. You're just Mo. I mean,
Mm.
dadgum, Morgan Freeman said that best when old Don Lemon was trying to bait him. What do you do about racism? He said, stop talking about it. I'm not an African American. I'm Morgan,
So I'm not a high yellow Negro.
and you're so and so. I mean, it's hard to get to the base of yourself when there's so much to grasp at, and they
I know.
throw it at you every day.
I love her. I love her.
Well, I mean, the government takes a page out of so many books. They took a
Y'all better
page
love
out of
her too.
Rome's book, man. They took a page out of ancient Rome, dude. The bread and circuses. Keep them distracted. Keep throwing stuff at them. They won't be looking at us if they're too busy with this.
Mm.
So what do? They give us cable TV with 600 channels and Monday night football to stare at instead of sitting down with the family and talking. Instead of finding out what your boy's learning in school, people are busy betting on a basketball game.
Yep.
Times have changed, and I mean, they have changed drastically from when I was a kid.
Honey,
It
I
wasn't
know.
a whole lot
Yeah,
different,
changing.
but it was more family central,
Yeah.
more relative central. People you consider family. Because sometimes blood ain't family.
Yeah.
Sometimes family ain't blood.
All right.
And, like you and me, we grew up before internet. And although internet is amazing because it
Yeah.
lets you and me talk, it's the double-edged sword because it also has made a disconnect to where we're not looking at our families, we're looking at this little device in our hand, this little rectangle in our eyes a lot.
Yeah.
It's something that has to be, we got to try and manage it a little bit better. You see I saw a 2-year-old the other day navigating an iPhone. You know what I
Yeah.
was doing when I was 2? I was eating dirt. I was playing with rocks.
I could
This
tell. Look,
This
that's what
dude,
I'm looking like. Oh man,
this guy handed his 2-year-old grandson the phone and said, "Okay, find that picture." A 2-year-old, he went, whoop, tap, 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 whoop. Here you
what
go.
the
I'm like,
fuck?
I looked at him, I was like,
Are you serious, Jen?
I looked at
Jennifer?
my friend Vernon. He's my friend of mine I worked with. I was like, Vernon, really? He's like, yeah, man, this kid's smart. I'm like, no, no, dude, I was playing with sticks. I was beating my sister with a stick when I was 2. What is this? It's amazing and
Man,
scary and scary that
it's oh,
these little kids can navigate this technology better
oh,
than me.
Lord help us. Jesus, take the wheel.
Yes, that's a big factor we have missed in this country for so long. That's a whole different ballpark right there. Lord above.
No.
He's been so put out of everything. It's no wonder we're sliding where we're sliding. When God's removed from the schools and the courthouse, all because they think it's separation of church and
Yes,
state.
yes, yes.
That's not what the founders intended. I mean, in God we trust is on our money. They didn't intend a separation.
They love you on
They didn't
YouTube right here. They love you on YouTube. They say, I
they
love the
didn't want
film.
squabbling because you believe different than me, but they didn't want God shut out completely. Almost every single founding father was a Christian.
Right.
I mean, I can see how they set things up to where they didn't want one religion, dominating, but at the same time, we're such a melting pot right now. It's a very difficult thing to discuss because
Yep.
there is one aspect out there that's a pretty big beast, and it's closing in on us, and it's the big I word. That right there is not a religion, that's an ideology, and it's an evil one.
So it's a difference between an ideology than a religion. Uh, what is an ideology in your eyes, in your mindset? I mean, in your eyes, what is an ideology? Which I know that, but I want people like to listen to pay attention.
To me, To me, Islam is an ideology because it's more a set of laws than it is a faith, a religion. Their set of laws is so diabolically strict and it's so evil. I mean, you do the wrong thing, there's no repent and be forgiven. If you're a woman in Islam and a man rapes you, you have to go to a court and have 4 men with you as witnesses, and if no 4 men step up, you're accused of adultery and you're stoned to death. How is that a faith? How is that a religion of love? There's your
Mhm.
kicker. Islam is one of the most evil things that could ever be perpetrated on earth. Get in there, dog. I know it's cold. And a lot of people will throw the Bible at that and say, well, they had killings in the Bible. You couldn't do this or that. And I'm like, well, no, of course not. That was the Old Testament.
Yeah,
The Old Testament was the story of man and how heavily he sinned. Even when God tried to give them ten little things to go by to try and better themselves, they still
yeah,
sinned heavily. But there's a New Testament, a brand New Testament. God said, okay, I'm going to come at this with a different angle.
right.
I'm going to send a son to this earth and save their souls if they'll accept
Amen.
it.
Amen.
The Old Testament is what we learn from. The New Testament is what we build ourselves on. Islam doesn't have that. Islam has Allah and his prophet Muhammad and a whole bunch of verses that call for the killing of anyone who doesn't believe in him. 109 verses in the Quran that call for the murder of infidels. Find them and slaughter them wherever you see them.
Yeah.
If you steal, you get beheaded. If you covet, you get beheaded. If you try to leave Islam, you get beheaded. If you're
Mhm.
gay, you get beheaded. If you're a woman who does anything but sneeze, you get beheaded. To me, that's the difference between a faith and a very, very twisted ideology. And I've studied on it a little bit and to study the facts of it. The first 12 years of Islam were peaceful. because Muhammad was trying to get this established.
Yes, of course. Yeah.
And up to that point, only his family and some close friends would follow it. So he tried to go to a different town and convince these people, hey, this is the message, this is the way. That whole town said, we don't want it. He left and he came back and he slaughtered that entire village. And that
Mm.
began evil right there. 12 years, boom. The moment he entered Medina and slaughtered those people
Medina.
on
Yeah.
Medina, it's been nothing but killing ever since. The thing
Mm.
people mistake is that the extreme Islamic terrorist is not extreme. That is the Islamic individual who fulfills the Quran to the letter.
Yeah.
The majority of Muslims are what you'd say moderate. They worship Allah and Muhammad and they adhere to some of the rules, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, maybe. But they don't execute the laws of it. The extremists, those are the ones that are devout.
Yeah.
Devout.
Devout.
But in that devout nature, they execute pure evil.
Damn.
Now, Christianity has not been perfect because Christianity in the hearts and the minds of the wrong person lead to evil. Look at the Inquisition, where Catholics would go from land to land trying to convert. If the people wouldn't convert, they'd burn them for heretics.
Mm.
Christianity had a dark spot because of dark people. The
Right.
message of Christianity is good and pure if the person keeps it that way.
Facts.
They want to use it to dominate, then, well, you're going to get a bad chapter. And Christianity had its bad chapter. I don't even want to call that Christianity. I want to call that Catholicism because that's who did it. If you weren't a Catholic, you were burned
Mm.
or hung. Usually burned. They were fond of burning people. That's an example of one religion taking a faith and trying to conquer with it.
Right.
There's so many things. I mean, to me, the worst thing that could have happened to Christianity is the denominations, the
Come
splits,
on.
the different religions.
Like when Paul talking about a follower of Apollos, he said that in the beginning. If you're going to follow different apostles, different type of, I'm saying, leadership, and you're not following the
Hmm.
truth, and that's real.
Well, that's where the Catholics pulled their religion from. They believe and then try to convince people that Christ made the Catholic Church, and that's no. They say because he went to Peter, I believe, or was it Paul, and said, "Upon you'll be the rock. You shall build my church." But that wasn't the Catholic Church. But
Yeah.
that's how they took it. Each denomination has their own interpretation of the book, and they base their religion on that. And I say that because I'm non-denominational.
Me too.
I was at 18. I was baptized with my dad as a Methodist because that was his religion, and
Hmm.
I chose to be baptized with him. Something special with him because he was dying at the time.
Yeah.
But I never set foot in a Methodist church until his funeral. Um, I've been to many different churches, and I've been told by several different religions just how damned I am because I'm not their religion. When you're told by a Southern Baptist that you're going to burn in hell because you weren't baptized right, that at 19, 20 years old kind of opened my eyes to things. I'm like, really? I'm damned because I wasn't dunked? Hmm.
Yep.
I was told by a Pentecostal that I'm still lost because I haven't caught the Holy Ghost.
The Holy Ghost, because you ain't falling out faking in the church.
Hey, for anybody that's never gone, a Pentecostal church it's an experience.
Yes, it is. I grew up Pentecostal.
I mean, they take a lot of the faith on the book of Acts, if I'm not mistaken. A lot of the things that are mentioned in Acts, they base a lot of their faith on. The women wear long dresses, they don't cut their hair, they don't wear makeup. That's in the book of Acts. They don't dress as men. So for me, walking into a Pentecostal church wearing jeans and having hair at my shoulders, and I felt every eye just go. all eyes were on me, and I'm like, ooh, okay.
Yeah, the apostolic church, the apostolic Pentecostals. I think they're word
Yeah.
apostolic ones.
And don't get me wrong, there's not many people who can get down and worship quite like them. I'd say maybe a black Southern Baptist church can rival it, but boy, them Pentecostals know how to get down. Woo, they will worship like you ain't never seen worship, and if you've never gone, it can be scary. It
Yeah.
can be kind of frightening, when they start rolling around in the floor and babbling in tongues and throwing themselves across the pews. I'm like, are y'all having epilepsy? What's wrong with y'all? I didn't know. It scared me the first time I went to one. I was a kid. I didn't go back for many years. Mm-mm.
Yep.
Uh, okay, you there?
I'm there. I'm
Something,
there.
something,
Look, my
something dinged
computer
on me.
act up sometimes.
But the different religions, I mean, it's hard for me to think on it. I mean, it's like they've got the right intention, but they're taking it in their own little vein.
What's
The
up, Joey
Catholics.
Val? How you doing, Joey Val? Much love.
Hi, Joby Val. I've heard of you.
Yeah,
I've heard
Joey
of you.
Val. I love Joey Val,
Um,
man.
Catholics think that they can sin Monday through Saturday, go to Sunday confession, and be absolved, and they're free to sin all over again. That's not how it works. You know, there's just I think they all have a good intention, but they all take it such a narrow approach. Christ, Christianity should just be Christianity. You believe in Christ, that he died for you and rose again. That doesn't mean I should go in a confessional booth or start babbling in tongues. But
Babbling in tongues.
the
You
judgment
didn't
that
say
some of
speaking
those
tongues.
churches
You said
cast on you,
babbling in
though.
tongues.
Oh, they'll. That was the one of the hardest things for me was to go to a Pentecostal church when you're up there at the front and you're trying to pray, and all of a sudden you feel like two or three dozen hands on you, and they're all babbling around you, and they're all moving you, and I'm like, all I could do was like, please God, make them stop. Please God, make them stop. I don't want this. Tell them to stop. It's different. It is different.
Yeah.
You ain't the same once you've been in one of them churches. Woo! Let me tell you.
Hey,
But
one of
it's
my
it's
coworkers said you are brilliant. Text my phone. Want you. Look, my coworkers love you. Look,
it's
they ain't telling
it's
them, but they love you.
it's 39 years of life. Give you certain perceptions. I just keep to the Lord in my own heart. Christ died for me. Christ is in me. I am enough. I don't need a religion telling me what's what.
Nope.
If when your Pentecostal friend looks at a girl with short hair and goes, I'll pray for you. That kind of did it for me. I'm like, real? Why are you going to pray for her? What's wrong with her? Because her hair's short, she needs praying?
Yeah. Hey, take it away for 1 minute. I gotta run real quick. Take it away for 1 minute.
They get too wrapped up in things. And a lot of the churches I've been to, I left with more questions than answers. I left thinking, there should be more to this. Something's missing. Why do I not feel like, something's here? So I'll go to a non-denominational church because they don't care what you look like. As long as Christ is in your heart, come and worship. That's how it should be. But religion has become its own little thing, its own problem. All you got to do is look at these prosperity gospel people, these televangelists who make money off of people's emotions and illnesses and fears. These these big mega church guys, Joel Osteen. He's got a former basketball arena as his church. It's a mega church. It's huge. He sells his books in the church, you know, for the tax-free advertising. That's that's not Christ, man.
Right.
Christ came into the temple one day and saw money lenders there. You know what he did? He flipped over tables and he chased them out with a length of rope. Christ
Didn't
got down and he's like, not in my house.
he said that my house should be a house of prayer. These people acting like a bunch of house of
Oh
players.
heck, man. Christ didn't I don't even know if he really believed in going into a house of prayer. He said, but when you pray, you go into your darkest room and you pray in
Yes.
secret, and the Father will hear you in secret. Do not
Hallelujah.
pray on the corner like you see these hypocrites doing.
Glory to God.
Christ knew that the connection, he said it himself. I am the way, the truth, and the life. None shall come to the Father but through me. Which
Hallelujah.
is what rubs Catholics the wrong way when they pray to Mary or Saint Anthony when they lose their car keys. You don't pray to saints because saints are dead people, and dead people don't answer prayers.
That's
Virgin
the word.
Mary, Mother of Christ, she was still a human.
Yes, that's
She
the
was
word.
not the Christ. She does not answer prayers. I've had some spirited debates with Catholics about that, and some of them are like, "Okay, girl, I understand you," but some of them get mad. They don't like to hear that their faith, that their religion might not, go with what Christ said.
Mm.
Boy, there's so many subjects that can get people rubbed the wrong way. And I don't do it to be mean. I just do it from observation. A friend of mine's a Catholic. I'm like, well, how can you pray to Saint Anthony? He doesn't
Yeah.
answer prayers. She's like, well,
Word.
well, I just pray to him for guidance. I'm like, well, how can he guide? He's a dead person. Why don't you pray to Jesus instead?
Yeah.
Jesus is up there right now saying, hello, I'm right
Yes.
here.
Hello.
Don't
There's healing in the name of
Anthony,
Jesus.
Anthony was a good guy, but no, right here. So, and the Catholics have all kinds of saints. You have a saint for your name, you have a saint for your birth date, for everything. But I don't pray to them.
All right. Hey, we run out of time. We run out of time right now.
All right.
Hey, look. If you wouldn't come back on here Wednesday,
I got no plans.
good. Let's do this. We're gonna do this a later time then. We're gonna chill since you off the next day.
Oh, yes. If
No,
I'm off
so
the next day, I'm up late. I'm a night owl. I have to make myself behave during the week so I can get up on time.
go ahead. Go ahead. So anything you want to say before I cut you off? When I cut you off, I want you to stay on here. I'm gonna talk to you for a second. All
Okay.
right.
And it was an honor to be on here with you, Mo. You are good people with me.
Thank you.
Whether that flag's behind you or not, that's the thing. I mean, the
Yeah.
flag is it is to people whatever they're gonna make it. Hopefully they'll see something better about it and see it in a better light because it's not what they think. But whether either of those flags are behind you or not, you're still you. You're still
Amen.
God's
That's what I'm
creature.
talking about.
Still God's creature.
Oh, I love you.
We can have all the knowledge in the world, but if we speak with hate, what's it worth?
Thank you. Thank you. Okay.
None. That's love. That's what Christ said. Faith, hope, love. The most
Yes.
important is love. He put love above faith, above hope. So we got to get back to love. That's where
Get
it's going
back.
to happen. That's where it has to happen.
Back to love. Back to
Everybody.
reality.
Everybody.
All right. Hey,
It's
thank you for
tough,
coming
but it can
on.
be done.
I'll see you Wednesday. Stay online. I'll see you Wednesday. Okay. Much love, everybody.
Y'all
Keep
have a
them
good one.
great. You dig?
Absolutely.